Hello booktube, it's haul time. I know I haven't done a new books and new woes video in a bit of a while now. I've done some couple mini hauls on the side and all that, but it's time for a proper return to new books and new woes. Where I just talk about books I've recently hauled. I don't know why I called it new books and new woes. I just wanted a title for it. But yeah, let's start. There's a big range of genres we have here today. I randomly found in a free book box The Magic Pudding, of course, by Norman Lindsay. I've talked about this before in Oslet 101. You remember that series. I put it on beginner, like children's picture children's middle grade something like that. You can find it. And yeah, I never owned a copy of this as an adult, and it's got illustrations in it, of course, and I can find a better one. But for those who don't know, the Magic Pudding, the pudding there is magic, and he's very mean, and it's pretty much you got these I think it's animals or people, I can't remember. I think it's the people are trying to save the angry, bitter, jaded magic pudding from being eaten by people. I can't remember exactly. It's weird that it's pudding here because pudding in Australia isn't much of a thing. At least that term, but it's an old essential children's book here. Again, it was in a book box and I had to take it. But yeah, look at how angry that magic pudding looks right there. So we have that. And then another find I recently found is Agatha Christie's autobiography. I like Christie. I think when I like Christie, I love Christie, but I'm not the biggest fan of murder mysteries and all that stuff. Again, I love Cards on the Table. That is probably my favorite Christie, of course, or maybe no, that's really it. I just love Cards on the Table. Of course, her big books I like, but Cards on the Table I will happily defend as her best crime book. But her objective best book for me has always been her autobiography. You can tell this was a passion project. I read this as a teen. I found it in a book box. I'm like, it's a sign. It's a sign. I need to reread this, and I want to see how it holds up because I haven't read this in God knows how long, and I remember it being my favorite thing from her. And we can see got some lovely photos here. We got Agatha Christie as a child, of course. But yeah, I can't wait to reread this at a certain point because it's been absolute years. Um, then we have a book by Brooks. I want to reread it again, and that's Indianapolis here. Look at me having World War II books. Oh my god, like that's been so long. This is by Lynn Vincent and Sarah Valdick, and this is a book about the sinking of the Indianapolis in what was it the 30th of July in 1945. It's pretty much the one where Quince from Jaws, that's his big background, was that he was on this sinking ship because it was torpedoed twice by the Japanese, and 300 men had to jump into the water and try to survive, and only I think 316 actually lived, and the government never acknowledged it for such a long time because it was like on a private mission. I think it's been a while since I've read it, but I waited till an accessible paperback came out because I refused to pay how much this book was originally costing. But I can't wait to go back to it and see how it holds up. Because I haven't read any other book about the Indianapolis, and this goes into my whole thing about World War nonfiction for me, is that I have a couple on my shelves, but I don't have a niche in any of the World Wars. I don't know if I'm a World War One or World War Two girly. I don't have a favorite battle. I'm just kind of stranded, and I don't know where to go. Maybe like for World War Two, I'm more of like a Pacific like battleship person. I don't know, and well, what if I'm a World War One person? Like that's even nerdier than World War Two. I just don't have a niche, and I need to process that and just keep an eye out for some World War books that I may do eventually. But yeah, so I found that, and I've been looking for that book for years at this point because I remember when it came out and I read it. Next, we have some classics. Look at me holding classics. When was the last time I hold a classic on this channel? But this is some Charles Dickens. I've probably showed this on the channel already, but This is American Notes and Pictures from Italy in this very gorgeous hardcover. It's perfect condition. It smells horrifically old. Um, and this was a part of a set that I saw. And I was like, I don't need Dickens, but I love his nonfiction, so I just took this and left the set. So if someone sees that, they're gonna buy the entire set except these two nonfiction books. I'm like, that's all I need. And yeah, I love his travel writings. I really, really, really do. Probably the best thing Dickens ever wrote. I know that's a bit of a hot take, but normally I prefer authors nonfiction to fiction. And I can't wait to reread this. This was a favorite book when I was a teen. And I can't wait to get back to it. So I don't know when, but I want to get to it soon because I remember really loving it. And Dickens done these travels when he was fairly like early on in his career, so he wasn't jaded and bitter yet. But yeah, I want to get to that. And then we have a biography of Mark Twain. This is by Ron Powers. It's a nice big chunky hardcover, of course. And I haven't read a Mark Twain biography. I saw this and I picked it up. I'm in a bit of a Mark Twain mood, to be honest, because I've just recently brought the Everyman's edition of his nonfiction because I I don't know, I like Everyman editions, but every time I found one secondhand, it's never been a book I like or think that's worth having in an Everyman edition. But I saw these nonfiction books secondhand, and I was like, I love Mark Twain's nonfiction, and I think I'm going to take the hit and get the two volumes, of his essays and speeches and selections from his autobiographies and travel writings and all that. But yeah, it'll be the first Everyman books I own, like literally, which is insane to think because I've had some over time and I got rid of them because I just don't like the book. And, just because it's a really pretty edition doesn't mean it's worth having, obviously. But I love Mark Twain, of course, and I can't wait to do a biography of him. I know facts about his life, but I don't know a lot about his life, so I can't wait to get to that. Then the last two books I have here are both by Patsy Adams Smith. She's probably one of Australia's greatest historians. Go check out her books on the Anzacs in particular during World War One. They're great. She does a lot of great books about trains, train history in Australia. It killed me that I didn't put her on my Auslit 101 list for her war books. That's because I hadn't read her until a commenter suggested her, and I went back and I was like, oh my god, why didn't she make the list? Like, why haven't I heard of her before? Because I've seen her name around, but I didn't think anything of it until I read her. Now I'm addicted to finding her. Her memoir, Goodbye Girlie, is so fun. And the fact she named it that is just, it's diva material. But I have her book here. I've got two. This is Australian Women at War. And they're a bit bigger than a normal hardcover, of course. Here's Mark Twain compared to that. As you can see, it's slightly a bit bigger and heavier too. And this is about Australian women during World War One, how they went into the factories and all that and started working, and how that changed Australian society. And again, because unions are so big here in Australia, how women really kind of became forebearers for unions. Of course, they existed after the Eureka Stockade in the late 1800s, of course, with the mines and all that stuff. But particularly, unions here have always been well represented over time because a lot of industries are women dominated. And this is just a history book of that, I feel like, again, focusing on World War One. And it's got lovely photos, of course, nicely formatted. And I can't wait to read it and look at the photos, of course, and just learning about stuff that I don't know about. Because this isn't, Patsy Adams Smith she's not as an ebook yet. And so I find her physically whenever I can. And so the second one I have is about shearing, the shearers in Australia. Of course, here's a man at the back shearing sheep. Shearing and wool and all that was very important for Australia. This is the first history of the independent army of men who tramped the great shearing routes of the outback. And she talked to shearers, like literally everyone, drovers, classes, cooks, contractors, property owners. She may as well have asked the sheep herself. and I can't wait to read it because I know that Victoria was, particularly Melbourne, was always popular for wool factories, or down here at least, were always extremely popular, and that's why we were founded all the way down here because it was closer to traveling routes, I think, and all that stuff. I could be wrong, but shearing and all that's such a big industry here in Australia still, and I haven't read a history book about it. So Patsy's going to tell me everything I need to know, hopefully, about shearers in Australia. And yeah, it's I can't wait to get to it. And so yeah, that's my haul. Let me know what you think about the books I recently hauled. And yeah, thank you so much for watching BookTube, and I will see you next time.